and welcome to Tarmac. I'm Dave.
And I'm Harry. And today we have the all-new from the ground up MG ZS.
That's right. It's not just the ZS, it's the Hybrid Plus. So plus in size, plus in power, and plus in efficiency. Come, let's take a look at this. Now, the MG ZS was first launched in 2017, and it really did hit the mark as far as being a family-sized SUV that actually people wanted, and it was priced very well as well. For this next generation, what they've done is go back to the drawing board. So rather than resting on their laurels, they really have gone ground up and really changed it. And it really does show. They've managed to, as far as the look goes, make it very much part of the MG family, or the new generation MG family. And what that means is, you've got round the front here, a catfish sort of grill here, or catfish face. And the grill itself has actually got these little shiny parts on it, so it does stand out. The MG badging is dominant. It's on the front here. And just like the MG3 and the MG4, really does stand out. Round the bottom here, we've got a nice sort of chromish lip. So bottom lip is actually chrome there, and vents around the side here, making sure there's airflow going round there. And also the DRLs here are sort of give an eyebrow sort of look, or an eyelash look. So very much a dominant front, but lots going on. In terms of model lineup, New Zealand's got the Excite and the Essence, and we have the Essence here. So it's the top of the line with all the bells and whistles. And in terms of dimensions, what they've done is they've given the actual chassis an extra 25 mils, the actual length is an extra 109 mils, and the width is an extra 9 mils. So it really does cast a much bigger footprint before, and that equates to what's going on inside. So the cabin's a lot bigger, but we'll get Harry to talk about that in a while. Being the Essence, what we have is some nice protective trim around these 18-inch wheels that look very, very nice. And you've got color-coded mirror caps, a lovely strong belt line across here, so it really does stand out and flicks up near the rear end here. And we have a full panoramic sunroof, so really does cast a nice profile. The extra width gives the rear, actually makes it far more substantial, which is, I don't know, if you're into that sort of thing, there it is. The roofline spoiler takes obviously the whole width here. A stoplight, you've got a little bit of privacy glass here. Very dominant MG badge, and the all-important ZS Hybrid Plus badge. Down the bottom here, we've got another bit of sort of chrome effect as far as the trim goes. And also there's no exhaust tips, you can see. Nothing around here, but a very sporty light here, which does make it give it sort of an F1 impression. The boot is a manual size, so you cannot kicker, so you can open up. And there's actually 443 litres of space in here. Under the bonnet here, what we have is a full hybrid system. So we've got a 1.5 litre petrol engine, an electric motor, and a 1.83 kilowatt hour battery, which is probably one of the largest in the sort of hybrid categories that we've got right now. Together, they give you 158 kilowatts of power and 465 newton meters of torque. It's pretty massive. And when it comes to efficiency, 5.2 litres per 100 kilometers. So a lot going on here, but it's all pretty good. And it's pretty good inside as well. So let's hand it over to Hazza.
And it's not just on the outside that the ZS has had a big makeover. The interior has also gotten a lot of that new attention and this new modernity that they are bringing to the whole lineup. For starters, here on the dashboard, it is, even though it is still familiar to those that know the ZS and know other models of the MG lineup, it has had a big makeover. So you get this sort of two textures across the whole dashboard, with the stitching that in one part is real and in the other part is sort of simulated. But then you also get this whole very expansive view that gives you a little bit more of storage solutions that are always welcome in an SUV or crossover of this size, while also taking care of the technology that we are going to talk about in a little bit. A few things that are known in other MG cars also made their way into the ZS. For starters, I really like the new seats. I was not a big fan of the seats of the previous gen, but these have had a big improvement, not only in terms of the materials that feel a little bit more comfortable, but also the shape that feels a little bit more supportive and also takes care of the comfort on the longer drives. In terms of storage solutions around the car, you get this armrest storage in here that is not too big, but useful enough. 2 cup holders that you can slide from one side to the other to grab all the way to the big bottles, to the small cans. And then some solutions in here for your phone, as you can see that we are using here, and one for another device that you can even use the USB-A or USB-C port to do your charging. In terms of door pockets, they are of an okay size, and door cards in itself are a little bit of a talking point, because the same idea of the 2-tiered comfort solution is also seen here, with the fake stitching up top and the real stitching down below, with the touching surfaces not being the softest out there. But in terms of your actual touching points, the steering wheel is really, really good. It has this sort of a squarish shape to it that makes it really easy to find a resting position for your thumbs, for your hands when you are doing your driving, and all the touch points are good enough for a car of this segment. The technology experience is dominated by the 2 screens that you have here in front of the driver. So starting with the one in the middle of the dashboard, it has sort of this home screen layout where you have the things that you will be interacting with the most always at reach. So you have the projection of your phone, then all of your climate functions that you can expand a little bit, so you can use everything: air conditioning, auto climate control, and even the heated seats. Then the media that will incorporate everything from USB, AM, FM, and then of course the Apple CarPlay media that is playing here right now, and then the inbuilt navigation. There is not a lot of customization that you can do here from this view, but if you then swipe to this side, you then get an app drawer that will allow you to change more settings about each of those things. One thing that you can do is to always keep the 360 camera handy. That is really helpful. And then you can also expand into different views, both in the normal and the wide view. Going back there to the app drawer, there will be other settings that you can customize about the car in these 2 menus that we see. First, with the vehicle, so there will be a lot of stuff that you can do about the driving in here, starting with the intelligent drive, which is basically your way of telling the MG ZS if you want to use this intelligent driving that incorporates adaptive cruise with the lane keep assist. I don't recommend that one too much. It's a little bit too hyperactive, but then the ACC seems to be the best one for my liking. There will be other things that you can change in here in terms of the actual assistances for lane keeping, emergency braking, and all the other things that will make your driving a little bit more sort of easier and convenient. And then about the driving itself, there are other convenient features, such as how much regeneration you want to do, if you want auto hold to be working, and it's really good in this car. So I have always used it in the on state. In terms of convenience, you can then change a few favorites that you can access through these 2 buttons on each individual spoke of the steering wheel. They're really handy, and you can customize for things that we'll be using very frequently. In my case, I've used for the camera and for the regeneration settings. It's really handy to have them at one touch all the time. So going back here to the home, another thing that I wanted to show is that when you actually go into the phone projection, you can see how good of a job it does at using all the real estate that you have on the screen, and the fact that it is really responsive and has a really crisp level of detail that will make it really easy to use all the information that you have. In terms of the shortcuts that you have access to, there is one here that is really handy to turn on and off climate control, 2 for the media, and 1 to always go back to home. If you want to change the temperature settings, or actually change a few things about the track that is playing, you will have to go back to this home, or you can use the buttons that are then on the steering wheel. So I'll shift your attention to then the screen that is in front of the driver. It is reminiscent to a few things that we have seen on the previous generation of the ZS, even though they have been sort of modernized for the new language that the company is using. You still get these 2 things showing on each side of the cluster, one for the revs that we will mention a little bit more on the drive, and the other one for the speed, even though you also get the ability to customize a lot of the things that go in the middle of the screen. So first, the information that you see down below has to do with how you are driving, if it is in hybrid mode or in EV mode, like we are right now. You get your range, which is really impressive in this car here, and then a few things such as your drive mode selector, for example, that I'm shifting right now, or the amount of regeneration that we can see change down there. There are these two joysticks, one on each spoke of the steering wheel, that are really sort of a staple of MG cars right now. So the one on the left is what you use for everything about your driving. This here will control your adaptive cruise control, and this will control your toggling on or off of all the driving assistances with the lane keep assist that will handle the driving for you. If you then go to the right, then you can use this menu, this button here, to access different menus that allow you to shift between important information about your driving. In this case, we don't have any warnings, but if you want to see how your energy is flowing, how much power you're making, or just some specific information about your drive, this is where you access it. All right, that's it. Really revised technology suite for the new MG ZS. So I think it's about time that we take it for a drive and see how well it translates to the actual behind the wheel action. So setting off from the new MG ZS Hybrid Plus. And Hybrid Plus it actually is, because one of the big things that MG has been doing with their recent hybrids is that they actually don't feel just like hybrids. They have that little plus on top of it. Because on a driving like this, where some hybrids would just be all the time between that handoff between the ICE engine and the electric, this is not the case here. For most of your daily driving, so long as you have enough state of charge, it will almost drive like a full-fledged EV. And it just comes to how much knowledge MG has in building full-fledged EVs, right?
Yeah, you're right. It does, when I've driven it, when you let me, it does feel like you're driving an EV, which is awesome. And apart from the bings, which we'll get to in a while, but you're right, the transition between just grabbing that extra bit of power from that 1.83 kilowatt hour battery, which is being provided by the ICE engine, so it's no plug-in hybrid, it's just a hybrid, just means that it's predominantly being driven as an EV, and it feels quiet, smooth, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. For a long part of my drive, be it bumper-to-bumper traffic, or even as I needed to merge into the highway and go for a longer period in motorway speeds, it did all of that in pure EV mode. And of course, it translates into two big things. The first one is the refinement, right? You don't get a lot of noise, it is very quiet. And the other part is the efficiency, because this is a very efficient hybrid.
It really is. I mean, what have you clocked up? Something ridiculously low, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was below 5 liters to 100, and I drove more than 100 kilometers, and it is still showing almost 700 kilometers left of range, considering both battery and petrol. So it will really go the distance.
Yeah, so it just gets rid of that range anxiety, which doesn't necessarily happen in a hybrid. But I mean, all you need to know is you fill it up with fuel and away you go, and 700 or 800 kilometers of sort of worry-free driving, or an EV feel driving, which is, yes, again, quite important as far as that goes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really has that quick off-the-line kind of acceleration, and then it tries to use the electric motor as much as possible to fill the gap where the ICE engine needs to do all the things that it needs to do when you need the power. But your runs to 100 will be sort of filled with electric power first, and then the ICE engine takes over. So it really has that sort of seamless delivery of all the power it can give you.
And it's funny because you've got the screen set up as with your EV or battery side of things, as well as the normal speed. So what you can tell is the revs, and so you can see when the engine kicks in. And right now we're traveling at 41 kilometers per hour at 0 revs, and that's kind of what I found even at 100 kilometers per hour on the motorway, that it's just zero revs, and that's just tapping right into that efficiency.
Yeah, it is sort of blurring the lines between the EV driving and the hybrid driving for many different scenarios. Even, as you said, in motorway speeds, you can be at 0 revs, just enjoying the silent driving and all the benefits that come with it.
Then there's the actual drive feel itself. What do you think?
I think that the suspension is really compliant. It is comfortable. It handles the day-to-day things, even as you are going into sort of the curbs, you're going to driveways and potholes. It handles that very well. But of course, it translates into quite a bit of roll that you can sort of tell right now. But again, it just comes with the territory, right? This is supposed to be an urban crossover, so it's the kind of thing that you will expect.
Yeah, but also we've taken it on some pretty nasty sort of corners and things like that, and it feels quite secure. I was actually surprised, given the roll, that it still hugs the road relatively well.
Yeah, it is confidence inspiring, so long as you know that the limits are there, right?
Well, it actually lets you know the limits. That brings you you'll hear it every now and again, well, actually quite a lot. It bings quite loudly. I think you can reduce it a little bit in noise, but it lets you know when you're going too quickly, when you're going anywhere near the side of the road or the other side of the road. It lets you know when you're not paying attention. It lets you know all your driving habits that you've picked up along the way. It gives you a little bing to let you know that you're not doing it by the book.
Yeah, and by the book, we are talking 1 kilometer over the speed limit. So it'll bing at you the moment you go over 51, and then you get a bing. And of course, again, this is the kind of stuff that we are expecting to see in pretty much every single car that comes brand new right now. But when you hand off some of the driving to the car, that's where I found a few things that I didn't fall in love with. There are a few options that I've covered in the interior about how much you can introduce driver assistances to your driving, and when you go into the full sort of automated suite that MG offers, the steering does get a little bit hyperactive. So the moment that you go just a few inches out of the center, it'll keep bumping you from one side to the other. So it's just it probably left best in ACC mode rather than fully automated.
Yeah, the pilot system is helpful, and I don't know, for those drivers who feel that they can do better, like us, it does interfere quite a lot. Visibility around I found very good. There's plenty of light coming into the cabin. The panoramic roof really does make a difference, and also the steering weight I found very good as well. And I love the steering wheel. I think it's a cool shape.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I think that there is a little bit of a learning curve with MG's suite of technology, but we've pretty much tested their whole lineup at this point, so we know how to find our way around, and it just brings it back to the technology. MG keeps raising the bar from one generation to the other. This is probably their best implementation yet, even though it is not the range topper. That's how quickly these things evolve. And in terms of phone projection and the 360 camera and all the other things that you can achieve with the technology, it's a thumbs up. So there you have it, the new MG ZS Hybrid Plus. And it is actually a plus of everything. It is bigger, it is smarter, it is better to drive, it is way more efficient. And yeah, I think it is a massive improvement over the previous one.
Yeah, you're right. I think it is far more attractive, and love the tech. It is such a big step up, and it drives like an EV, which is not a bad thing actually, without having to plug it in, which for lazy people like me is an absolute plus. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. You never know what it may be. Actually, we don't know what it will be. See you.